Some 23 out of 33 range states have lost all their rhino under a CITES ban. We are seeing declining populations in South Africa. The situation would be much worse if it was not for the positive intervention by the private reserves. Back in 2014, we, the private reserves, only owned some 25% of the national herd. Well, that's changed quite dramatically, and the latest figures are showing that we are in actual fact in excess of 50% of the national herd. So what you've got is a declining population in national parks and in certain provincial reserves, and you're seeing a substantive growth in private reserves. And so, in fact, the population is actually flatlining, and that is of concern. It's concern because the pure economics of rhino conservation is such that it simply no longer makes sense. If you analyze what is the rhino poaching tsunami cost South Africa, first of all, in terms of the loss of excess of 8,000 rhino, add to that the productivity, the production loss of some 8,000 rhino over the last period of time, 10 years, and then also the current devaluation, which is some 67% from 2014 to date. If you put those three figures together, you come to an alarming figure of some $700 million US, which is some 9.8 billion South African rand. Add to that now what we're paying in security, again over the 10-year period I've described. I calculate a figure of about $100 million US. So before we talk about management costs, veterinarian, biological management, feeding, etc., we are already $800 million US out of pocket. So the net result is that there's very little interest in investment in rhino, purely because of the high risk and obviously the management cost, the security that has to be applied to looking after the species. Here at CITES, we are frustrated insofar as there's little empathy and understanding for the South African situation, which is a success module based on sustainable utilization. So we're faced with a scenario here of one size fits all. So that's bad enough when you talk about the European and North American attitude towards Africa. But even within Africa, the elephant poaching problems of East Africa, the giraffe declining numbers, also in East and Central Africa, are certainly not the problems that we see in the SADC region, where we have, particularly with elephant, we have a problem insofar as we have more elephant than have habitat for. We're seeing an increasing level of human-wildlife conflict, and that has to do with obviously the basic economics of it all, rural communities having crop destruction, and so it carries on and on. So the situation is not good by any measure, and we are not seeing a very sympathetic international community towards our needs. We see a high level of arrogance in decision making. We see a terrible influence of animal rights NGOs.